Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. On this week's show, protest across the country calling for change. We've been here before and nothing has happened. But New Jersey Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman says this time feels different. New Jersey towns and cities are hurting. That's why State Senator Kip Bateman has introduced legislation so they can borrow money. Businesses are reopening up and down New Jersey. We'll check in down south in Ventnor and the owner of a restaurant reopening up north in Point Pleasant. And Phil Andrews tells us about an historic black church in New Jersey that hasn't let the COVID-19 shutdown stop them from spreading the gospel. And now my interview with Democratic Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman from New Jersey's 12th Congressional District. I know that you were one of many co-sponsors on the House bill for sweeping police reform. We can't go through all of it, but what in particular do you like? If there's a compromise, what do you want to make certain stays in?
Well, obviously, I want the chokehold and the knee on your neck to be declared illegal activities. I need the standards to be changed upon when you're going to enact lethal force to something that is absolutely necessary to do. I want there to be greater transparency, and when there are problems with police and complaints have come in about their abusing their power, that it is dealt with in a procedural way, and that at some point, if their behavior doesn't change or if the infringement is so serious that they end up on this sort of national registry of misconduct that we're trying to enact, that they're not eligible to work in any other law enforcement capacity. There are lots of different aspects of the bill that look at the way we've been policing and the accountability, and think that we've not been sufficiently robust in making sure that the de-escalation training takes place, that the cultural competency is assured, that we're hiring individuals that will respect the differences in their communities. We've gotten more into sort of militarizing our communities and being community policemen. So, and friends of the community. I remember when I was a child, I was told if ever I got lost or something concerned me, look for Officer Friendly. That doesn't exist anymore.
You know, you say it doesn't exist anymore. Officer Friendly doesn't exist anymore. And I would agree with you that it's rare, but it does exist. And we saw that in Newark, New Jersey and in Camden, New Jersey. They were shining examples of how a peaceful protest is supposed to happen, and also how public officials can react to a peaceful protest. I'm sure you were proud.
I am very proud of that. And I believe that there are more good police departments and more good police officers than there are those that don't have any respect for the life of an innocent, unarmed Black person. But I think that as a cohort, as a collection of enforcement agencies, they need to be more proactive in standing up when things happen. It is good to see them a part of the peaceful protest, but there is more to it than that. We need to make sure that our police are as healthy as they can be, that they have the kind of training that they need to not fear the community so much that the first thing they do is pull out a gun and shoot it. There is a part of this bill that says no more warrantless intrusions into your home for drug causes. Breonna Taylor was killed under those circumstances. Our police, by and large, are decent individuals, public servants who want to serve and protect. But our departments, our individuals, and even the unions representing them are not speaking out forcefully enough and in a uniform way to say, this is not who we are. We're here to protect and preserve. And when we don't see that happening, we will engage in policies and procedures that will weed that out.
Yeah, Congresswoman, we've been here before, right? With Rodney King and with Michael Brown and with Freddie Gray and Eric Garner, and every single time people think that's a seminal moment. Things are going to change. Something's going to change. And every time it doesn't change. Another news story comes along and nothing is done. Is this time different?
Feels different. If you look at the protests are multicultural. It's not just Black folks holding up signs that say Black Lives Matter. It's young, it's old, it's Black, it's white, it's Latino. I'm sure it's Asian. The communities at large are concerned about this. The polling is showing that the communities support police reforms and that they support more respect and peacefulness in our communities. This feels like a different moment. And if you put that on top of the fact that you've got more minorities, let's say, just in Congress alone, than ever before, and that right now the Black Caucus is the point entity for the justice and policing omnibus bill that's being considered, that's going to be heard in the Judiciary Committee this week and probably marked up the next week and maybe voted on the following week, that there's more diversity in the legislative groups that come from those communities and are concerned about those communities.
I read somewhere where you were a little bit concerned with all of these protests of there being a revival of COVID-19 because people were not social distancing and they were not wearing masks. Is that a real concern of yours?
So it's not just the close proximity of individuals during the protests. I do see a lot of them wearing their masks, and I'm glad, because I think it's important that they protect themselves and protect others. But I also expressed concern coming out of the May 31st holiday. We traditionally said May 31st, but Memorial Day, where you saw people in a swimming hole in the Ozarks and there was no social distancing taking place there, or you saw people at the launch of the space shuttle in Florida and they were crammed all together and I didn't see a lot of masks there, or the beaches that were opening up. You don't see too many people on the beaches with their masks on, I guess because they don't want to have any sort of sun lines from a mask. So that concerns me, that we're not being as diligent as we need to be to ensure that we get through whatever sort of thing this virus is doing and how it's working its way through our communities.
I don't know if you saw it, but Governor Murphy over the weekend marched with Black Lives Matter protesters in Westview. He was violating his own executive order. He's called people knuckleheads for going out against his executive order. Are you giving him a pass on this one?
I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of folks who have been practicing safe distancing and have sheltered in and worn their masks and their gloves and limited their interactions with people who are now out there protesting, because the issue is just so important, that the movement is just so essential to putting a foothold on where we think we need to be going and what we think we need to be doing. So there are a lot of people that otherwise have been sheltering in that have been out there in these protests. And I'm knowing the governor, I'm sure he weighed that against whether or not there's a greater good coming out of his seemingly supporting the peaceful protests that are taking place.
I appreciate your time. I hope you and your family are well, and I hope we get to talk again soon. That was New Jersey Democratic Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. When Jersey Matters comes right back, municipalities all over New Jersey are hurting, but help might be on the way. We'll explain when Jersey Matters comes right back.